Hi, welcome to World Inspiring News Channel. Join us as we dive into the world of AI and how China's new AI advancements could impact US dominance. The world is witnessing a massive shift in the global balance of power, and it's all thanks to the rise of artificial intelligence. For decades, the United States has been the undisputed leader in technology and innovation, but China is rapidly closing the gap, and its aggressive AI strategy is posing a significant challenge to US dominance in this critical field. China's AI strategy is not just about developing cutting-edge technology, it's about creating a new world order.
First, I want to know what the stakes are. Describe the AI race between China and the US and what's at stake.
Okay, so first of all, China has a lot of disadvantages in competing with the US. Number one is the fact that they don't get access to all the hardware that we have access to here. So they're kind of working with lower end GPUs than us. It's almost like working with the previous generation GPUs scrappily. And the fact that the bigger models tend to be more smarter naturally puts them at disadvantage. But the flip side of this is that necessity is the mother of invention. Because they had to go figure out workarounds, they actually ended up building something a lot more efficient. It's like saying, hey, look, you guys really got to get a top-notch model, and I'm not going to give you resources, and like figure out something, right? Unless it's mathematically possible to prove that it's impossible to do so, you can always try to come up with something more efficient. But that is likely to make them come up with a more efficient solution than America. And of course, they have open sourced it, so we can still adopt something like that here. But that kind of talent they're building to do that will become an edge for them over time, right? The leading open source model in America is Meta's Llama family. It's really good. It's kind of like a model that you can run on a computer. But even though it got pretty close to GPT-4 and Sonnet at the time of its release, the model that was closest in quality was the giant 405B, not the 70B that you could run on your computer. And so there was still not a small, cheap, fast, efficient open source model that rivaled the most powerful closed models from OpenAI and Anthropic. Nothing from America, nothing from Mistral AI either. And then these guys come out with like a crazy model that's like 10x cheaper in API pricing than GPT-4o and 15x cheaper than Sonnet, I believe. Really fast, 60 tokens per second, and pretty much equal or better in some benchmarks and worse in some others, but like roughly in that ballpark of 4O's quality. And they did it all with like approximately just 2048 H800 GPUs, which is actually equivalent to like somewhere around 1500 or 1500 H100 GPUs. That's like 20 to 30x lower than the amount of GPUs that GPT-4 is usually trained on. They did roughly $5 million in total compute budget. They did it with so little money and such an amazing model, gave it away for free, wrote a technical paper, and definitely it makes us all question if we have the equivalent of Doge for like model training, this is an example of that, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Efficiency.
Yeah.
Is what you're getting at. So fraction of the price,
Yeah.
fraction of the time,
Yeah.
dumbed down GPUs essentially. What was your surprise when you understood what they had done?
So my surprise was that when I actually went through the technical paper, the amount of clever solutions they came up with. First of all, they train a mixture of experts model. It's not that easy to train. There's a lot of the main reason people find it difficult to catch up with OpenAI, especially in the MOE architecture, is that there's a lot of irregular loss spikes. The numerics are not stable. So often you got to restart the training checkpoint again, and a lot of infrastructure needs to be built for that. And they came up with very clever solutions to balance that without adding additional hacks. And they also figured out floating point 8 8-bit training at least for some of the numerics. And they cleverly figured out which has to be in higher precision, which has to be in lower precision. To my knowledge, I think floating point A training is not that well understood. I think most of the training in America is still running in FP16, maybe OpenAI, and some people are trying to explore that, but it's pretty difficult to get it right. So because necessity is a mother of invention, because they don't have that much memory, that many GPUs, they figured out a lot of numerical stability stuff that makes their training work, and they claimed in the paper that for majority of the training was stable, which means what? They can always rerun those training runs again, and on more data or better data, and then it only trained for 60 days. So it's pretty amazing.
Where Beijing is at the center. With its Made in China 2025 plan, the country is investing billions of dollars in AI research and development, and it's paying off. China is already ahead of the US in certain areas, such as facial recognition, and it's rapidly catching up in others, like natural language processing and autonomous vehicles. The scale of China's AI ambitions is staggering. The country's tech giants, like Alibaba and Tencent, are working closely with the government to develop AI systems that can be used across a wide range of industries, from healthcare to finance to education. And it's not just about developing AI systems. It's about creating an entire ecosystem that supports AI innovation, from chip design to data storage. At the heart of China's AI strategy is a willingness to experiment and take risks. The country is not held back by the same regulatory hurdles as the US, and its scientists and engineers are free to push the boundaries of what's possible with AI. This has led to some remarkable breakthroughs, from robots that can perform complex surgeries to AI-powered drones that can detect and respond to emergencies.
To say you were surprised.
So I was definitely surprised. Usually the wisdom, or like, I wouldn't say wisdom, the myth is that Chinese are just good at copying. So if we stop writing research papers in America, if we stop describing the details of our infrastructure or architecture and stop open sourcing, they're not going to be able to catch up. But the reality is some of the details in DeepSeek v3 are so good that I wouldn't be surprised if Meta took a look at it and incorporated some of that in
Tried to
Llama
copy
4.
them.
Right? I wouldn't necessarily say copy. It's all like, sharing science, engineering. But the point is like, it's changing. Like, it's not like China is copycat. They're also innovating.
We don't know exactly the data that it was trained on, right?
Yeah.
Even though it's open source. We know some of the ways and things it was trained on, but not everything.
Correct.
And there's this idea that it was trained on public ChatGPT outputs, which would mean it just was copied, but you're saying it goes beyond that. There's real innovation in
Yeah,
this.
look, I mean, they've trained it on 14.8 trillion tokens. The internet has so much ChatGPT. If you actually go to any LinkedIn post or X post now, most of the comments are written by AI. You can just see it. Like, people are just trying to write. In fact, even within X, there's like a Grok tweet enhancer, or in LinkedIn there's a AI enhancer, or in Google Docs and Word, there are AI tools to like rewrite your stuff. So if you do something there and copy paste it somewhere on the internet, it's naturally going to have some elements of a ChatGPT like training, right? And there's a lot of people who don't even bother to strip away that I'm a language model part. So they just paste it somewhere, and like, it's very difficult to control for this. I think XAI has spoken about this too. So I wouldn't like disregard their technical accomplishment just because like for some prompts, like who are you, or like which model are you, it responds like that. It doesn't even matter in my opinion.
For a long time, we thought, I don't know if you agreed with this, China was behind in AI. What does this do to that race? Can we say that China is catching up, or has it caught up?
I mean, like, if we say that Meta is catching up to OpenAI and Anthropic, if you make that claim, then the same claim can be made for China catching up to America. A lot of papers from China that have tried to replicate O1. In fact, I saw more papers from China after O1 announcement that tried to replicate it than from America. Right. Like, And the amount of compute DeepSeek has access to is roughly similar to what PhD students in the US have access to. By the way, this is not meant to like criticize others. Like even for ourselves, like, for Perplexity, we decided not to train models because we thought it's like a very expensive thing.
Yeah.
And we thought like there's no way to catch up with the rest. But
will you incorporate DeepSeek into Perplexity?
we already are beginning to use it. I think they have an API, and we're also they have open source away, so we can host it ourselves too. And it's good to like try to start using that because it actually allows us to do a lot of the things at lower cost. But what I'm kind of thinking is beyond that, which is like, okay, if these guys actually could train such a great model with this, good team, like, and there's no excuse anymore for companies in the US, including ourselves, to like not try to do something like that.
You hear a lot in public from a lot of, thought leaders in generative AI, both on the research side, on the entrepreneurial side, like Elon Musk and others say that China can't catch up. Like the stakes are too big, the geopolitical stakes. Whoever dominates AI is going to kind of dominate the economy, dominate the world. It's been talked about in those massive terms. Are you worried about what China proved it was able to do?
Firstly, I don't know if Elon ever said China can catch up. I'm not aware.
Just the threat of China. He's only identified the threat of letting China. And, Sam Altman has said similar things. We can't let China win the AI race.
It's all, I think you got to decouple what someone like Sam says to like what is in his self-interest, right? Look, I think my point is like whatever you did to not let them catch up didn't even matter. They ended up catching up anyway.
Necessity is the mother of invention,
exactly.
Like you said.
And it's actually, what's more dangerous than trying to do all the things to like not let them catch up and like, all this stuff is what's more dangerous is they have the best open source model and all the American developers are building on that.
Right.
That's more dangerous because then they get to own the mind share, the ecosystem. If the entire American AI ecosystem, look, in general, it's known that once open source is caught up or improved over closed source software, all developers migrate to that. It's historically known, right?
When Llama was being built and becoming more widely used, there was this question, should we trust Zuckerberg? But now the question is, should we trust China? That's a very
You should trust open source. That's the, like, it's not about who, is it Zuckerberg or is it...
Does it matter then if it's Chinese, if it's open source?
Look, it doesn't matter in the sense that you still have full control. You run it as your own, like set of weights on your own computer. You are in charge of the model. But it's not a great look for our own like talent to like, rely on software built by others. Even if it's open source, there's always like a point where open source can stop being open source too, right? So the licenses are very favorable today, but
you could close it.
Exactly. If over time, they can always change the license. So it's important that we actually have people here in America building, and that's why Meta is so important. Like I still think Meta will build a better model than DeepSeek V3 and open source it, and what they'll call it Llama 4 or 3 point something, doesn't matter. But I think what is more key is that we don't like try to focus all our energy
in areas like government investment, talent acquisition, and innovation policies. China is excelling. The country's government is spending billions of dollars on AI research and development, and it's attracting top talent from around the world. China's top universities are also producing some of the best AI researchers and engineers in the world, and its innovation policies are designed to encourage experimentation and risk-taking. For instance, the city of Shanghai has established a dedicated AI development zone, which provides funding, infrastructure, and resources to startups and entrepreneurs working on AI projects. This has led to a proliferation of AI startups in the city, many of which are working on cutting-edge projects like autonomous delivery robots and AI-powered healthcare systems.
On banning them and stopping them, and just try to outcompete and win them. Like that's just the American way of doing things. Just be better.
And it feels like there's, we hear a lot more about these Chinese companies who are developing in a similar way, a lot more efficiently, a lot more cost effectively, right?
Yeah. Again, like look, it's hard to fake scarcity, right? If you raise 10 billion and you're decided to spend 80% of it on a compute cluster, it's hard for you to come up with the exact same solution that someone with 5 million would do. And there's no point, no need to like sort of berate those who are putting more money. They're trying to do it as fast as they can.
When we say open source, there's so many different versions. Some people criticize Meta for not publishing everything. And even DeepSeek itself isn't totally transparent.
Sure. Yeah, you can go to the limits of open source and say, I should exactly be able to replicate your training run. But first of all, how many people even have the resources to do that? And compare, like I think the amount of detail they've shared in the technical report. Actually, Meta did that too, by the way. Meta's Llama 3.3 technical report is incredibly detailed and very great for science. So the amount of details these people are sharing is already a lot more than what the other companies are doing right now.
When you think about how much it costs DeepSeek to do this, less than $6 million, think about what OpenAI has spent to develop GPT models. What does that mean for the closed source model, ecosystem trajectory, momentum? What does it mean for OpenAI?
I mean, it's very clear that we'll have like an open source version of 4.0 or even better than that and much cheaper than that open source, like completely this year.
Made by OpenAI?
Probably not. Most likely not. And I don't think they care if it's not made by them. I think they've already moved to a new paradigm called the O1 family of models. Look there. I can't like Ilya Sutsky over came and said pre-training is at a wall, right? So I mean, he didn't exactly use the word, but he clearly said the age of pre-training is over.
Many people have said that,
right? So that doesn't mean scaling is hit a wall. I think we're scaling on different dimensions now. The amount of time model spends thinking at test time, reinforcement learning, like trying to like make the model, okay, if it doesn't know what to do for a new prompt, it'll go and reason and collect data and interact with the world, use a bunch of tools. I think that's where things are headed. And I feel like OpenAI is more focused on that right now.
Yeah. Instead of just the bigger, better model,
correct,
reasoning capacities. But didn't you say that DeepSeek is likely to turn their attention to reasoning?
100%. I think they will. And that's why I'm pretty excited about what they'll produce next.
I guess then my question is sort of, what's OpenAI's moat now?
Well, I still think that no one else has produced a system similar to the O1 yet, exactly. I know that like there's debates about whether O1 is actually worth it. On maybe a few prompts it's really better, but like most of the times it's not producing any differentiated output from Sonnet. But at least the results they showed in O3 where they had like competitive coding performance and almost like an AI software engineer level.
Isn't it just a matter of time though before the internet is filled with reasoning data that DeepSeek?
Again, it's possible. Nobody knows yet.
Yeah.
So until it's done, it's still uncertain, right?
Right.
So maybe that uncertainty is their mode, that like no one else has the same reasoning capability yet. But by end of this year, will there be multiple players even in the reasoning arena? I absolutely think so.
So are we seeing the commoditization of large language models?
I think we'll see a similar trajectory, just like how in pre-training and like post-training, that sort of system 4.0 getting commoditized, where this year will be a lot more commoditization there. I think the reasoning kind of models will go through a similar trajectory, where in the beginning, one or two players really know how to do it, but over time, like...
And who knows, right? Because OpenAI could make another advancement to focus on.
Correct.
But right now, reasoning is their moat.
But by the way, if advancements keep happening again and again and again, like I think the meaning of the word advancement also loses some of its value, right?
Totally. Even now, it's very difficult, right? Because there's pre-training advancements.
Yeah.
And then we've moved into a different phase.
Yeah. So what is guaranteed to happen is whatever models exist today, that level of reasoning, that level of multimodal capability in like 5 to 10x cheaper models, open source, all that's going to happen. It's just a matter of time. What is unclear is if something like a model that reasons at test time will be extremely cheap enough that like we can just all run it on our phones. I think that's not clear to me yet.
Another area where China is excelling is in the area of talent acquisition. The country is attracting top AI talent from around the world, and its universities are producing some of the best AI researchers and engineers in the world. This has created a virtuous cycle where top talent attracts even more top talent, and innovation flourishes as a result. A key event that illustrates the tipping point in the US-China AI rivalry is the development of the SenseTime AI platform. SenseTime is a China-based AI startup that has developed an AI platform that can be used across a wide range of industries, from healthcare to finance to education. The platform is incredibly powerful, and it has the potential to disrupt entire industries and create new business models. The development of SenseTime is significant because it shows that China is no longer just a follower when it comes to AI innovation.
It feels like so much of the landscape has changed with what DeepSeek was able to prove. Could you call it China's ChatGPT moment?
Possible. I mean, I think it certainly probably gave them a lot of confidence that like, we're not really behind, and no matter what you do to restrict our compute, like we can always figure out some workarounds. And yeah, I'm sure the team feels pumped about the results.
How does this change like the investment landscape? The hyperscalers that are spending tens of billions of dollars a year on CapEx have just ramped it up huge, and OpenAI and Anthropic that are raising billions of dollars for GPUs essentially. But what DeepSeek told us is you don't necessarily need that.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's very clear that they're gonna go even harder on reasoning because they understand that like whatever they were building in the previous 2 years is getting extremely cheap, that it doesn't make sense to go justify raising that amount of capital.
Is the spending proposition the same? Do they need the same amount of high-end GPUs, or can you reason using the lower-end ones that DeepSeek has?
Again, it's hard to say no until proven it's not. But I guess like in the spirit of moving fast, you would want to use the high-end chips, and you would want to like move faster than your competitors. I think like the best talent still wants to work in the team that made it happen first. There's always some glory to like who did this actually, like who's the real pioneer versus who's the fast follow, right?
That was like kind of like Sam Altman's tweet, kind of veiled response to what DeepSeek has been able to. He kind of implied that they just copied and anyone can copy, right?
Yeah, but then you can always say that like everybody copies everybody in this field. You can say Google did the transformer first. It's not OpenAI, and OpenAI just copied it. Google built the first large language models. They didn't productize it, but OpenAI did it in a productized way. So you can say all this in many ways. It doesn't matter.
I remember asking you, being like, why don't you want to build the model?
Yeah,
that's,
I know.
That's the glory. And a year later, just 1 year later, you look very, very smart to not engage in that extremely expensive race that has become so competitive. And you kind of have this lead now in what everyone wants to see now, which is like real world applications, killer applications of generative AI. Talk a little bit about like that decision and how that's sort of guided you and where you see Perplexity going from here.
Look, 1 year ago, I don't even think we had something like this is what like 2024 beginning, right? I feel like we didn't even have something like Sonnet 3.5.
Right.
We had GPT-4, I believe, and it was kind of nobody else was able to catch up to it.
Yeah.
But there was no multimodal, nothing. And my sense was like, okay, if people with way more resources and way more talent cannot catch up, it's pretty difficult to play that game. So let's play a different game. Anyway, people want to use these models, and there's one use case of asking questions and getting accurate answers with sources, with real-time information, accurate information. There's still a lot of work there to do outside the model, and making sure the product works reliably, keep scaling it up to usage, keep building custom UIs. There's just a lot of work to do, and we would focus on that. And we would benefit from all the tailwinds of models getting better and better. That's essentially what happened. In fact, I would say Sonnet 3.5 made our products so good in the sense that if you use Sonnet 3.5 as the model choice within Perplexity, it's very difficult to find a hallucination. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it dramatically reduced the rate of hallucinations, which meant the problem of question answering, asking a question, getting an answer, doing your fact checks, research, going and asking anything out there, because almost all the information is on the web, was such a big unlock. And that helped us grow 10x over the course of the year in terms of usage.
And you've made huge strides in terms of users. And, we hear on CNBC a lot, like big investors who are huge fans.
Yeah.
Jensen Huang himself, right?
Yeah,
you mentioned it in his keynote the other night.
He's a pretty regular user, actually. He's not just saying it. He's actually a pretty regular user.
So a year ago, we weren't even talking about monetization because you guys were just so new and you wanted to, get yourselves out there and build some scale. But now you are looking at things like that, increasingly an ad model, right?
Yeah, we're experimenting with it. I know there's some controversy on why should we do ads, whether you can have a truthful answer engine despite having ads. And in my opinion, we've been pretty proactively thoughtful about it, where we said, okay, as long as the answer is always accurate, unbiased, and not corrupted by someone's advertising budget, only you get to see some sponsored questions, and even the answers to those sponsored questions are not influenced by them. And questions are also not picked in a way where it's manipulative. Sure, there's some things that the advertiser also wants, which is they want you to know about their brand, and they want you to know the best parts of their brand. Just like how you go and if you're introducing yourself to someone, you want them to see the best parts of you, right? So that's all there, but you still don't have to click on a sponsored question. You can ignore it, and we are only charging them CPM right now. So we ourselves are not even incentivized to make you click yet. So I think considering all this, we're actually trying to get it right long term. Instead of going the Google way of forcing you to click on links.
I remember when people were talking about the commoditization of models a year ago, and you thought, oh, it was controversial, but now it's not controversial. It's kind of that's happening.
Yeah.
And you keeping your eye on that is smart.
By the way, we benefit a lot from model commoditization, except we also need to figure out something to offer to the paid users, like a more sophisticated research agent that can do multi-step reasoning, go and do 15 minutes worth of searching and give you a analysis, an analyst type of answer. All that's going to come, all that's going to stay in the product. Nothing changes there. But there's a ton of questions every free user asks day-to-day basis that needs to be quick, fast answers. It shouldn't be slow. And all that will be free, whether you like it or not. It has to be free. That's what people are used to. And that means figuring out a way to make that free traffic also monetizable.
So you're not trying to change user habits, but it's interesting because you are kind of trying to teach new habits to advertisers. They can't have everything that they have in a Google 10 blue links search. What's the response been from them so far? Are they willing to accept some of the trade-offs?
Yeah, I mean, that's why they're trying stuff. Intuit is working with us, and then there's many other brands. Dell, all these people are working with us to test, right? They're also excited about look, everyone knows that whether they like it or not, 5 to 10 years from now, most people are going to be asking AIs most of the things and not on the traditional search engine. Everybody understands that. So everybody wants to be early adopters of the new platforms, new UX, and learn from it and build things together. Not they're not viewing it as okay, you guys go figure out everything else and then we'll come later.
I'm smiling because it goes back perfectly to the point you made when you first sat down today, which is necessity is the mother of all invention, right? And that's what advertisers are essentially looking at. They're saying this field is changing. We have to learn to adapt with it. Okay, Arvind, I took up so much of your time. Thank you so much.
The country is now a leader, and its AI startups are competing with the best in the world. This has significant implications for the US, which needs to respond quickly to this new reality. In conclusion, China's AI strategy poses a significant challenge to US dominance in this critical field. The country's aggressive investment in AI research and development, its willingness to experiment and take risks, and its ability to attract top talent from around the world are all contributing to a new world order where Beijing is at the center. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comments about the future of AI. Also, be sure to check out another related video on my channel titled China's Rise to Tech Supremacy, Part 1. Subscribe, like, share, and comment on this video.